That man has a very peculiar aura, and I've never seen such fierce, baleful chi in anyone, so he's definitely no ordinary golden immortal. On top of that, I can sense that there's some type of extremely formidable power that he still hasn't displayed yet. Additionally, he seems to be an acquaintance of Gongshu Ju's, so he may be a very important figure in the heavenly court. Regardless of whether we can take him down or not, attempting to do so will result in severe trouble for our sect, so that's an option that we cannot explore. Luo Qinghai replied with a shake of his head. How are you so sure of that, Grand Palace Master? Feng Hai asked. Back when the Immortal Manor first opened, only 7 Infernal Frost scenic paintings appeared, and I saw all of the cultivators in possession of those 7 paintings, but none of them possessed the same appearance or aura as that man. Hence, he must have entered the Immortal Manor together with Gongshu Ju, using the 8th Infernal Frost scenic painting, which indicates that they had to have been quite close with one another. Luo Qinghai replied. Everyone nodded in response upon hearing this. What do we do then? Are we really just going to hand the water divination time arts over to him? Feng Hai asked in an indignant manner. The other golden immortals all fell silent upon hearing this. You've always been the best decision-maker out of all of us, Grand Palace Master, so I think you should decide on how we should proceed, the green-faced elderly man said. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this has been the most tumultuous period in the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace in the past hundreds of thousands of years. The Northern Glacial Immortal Palace, the Dawnfall Sect, and the Blaze Dragon Dao have all fallen from their pedestals, while only our Vast Flow Palace remains relatively intact. In times of crisis, countless opportunities present themselves, and this is the ideal time for our Vast Flow Palace to expand its forces. If we can take full advantage of this opportunity, it's very much possible for us to crush the Dawnfall Sect and the Blaze Dragon Dao to become the #1 sect in the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace. Luo Qinghai said. Excited looks appeared on everyone's faces upon hearing this. Even though the Vast Flow Palace was one of the top 3 sects of the Northern Glacial Immortal region, it had always been inferior to the Dawnfall Sect and the Blaze Dragon Dao. If they could surpass those 2 sects, not only would they be able to reap tremendous benefits, just the honor to be gained was already extremely appealing to them. What do you suggest we do, Grand Palace Master? Feng Hai asked. If we want to achieve that objective, then Palace Master Tai and Palace Master Chu are indispensable to us. Hence, I think we should recover their nascent souls in exchange for the water divination time arts, Luo Qinghai said. I agree. Ensuring the bright future of our Vast Flow Palace is far more important than the water divination time arts, the green-faced elderly man declared. Indeed, on top of that, the cultivation art is extremely profound and difficult to understand. Throughout the entire history of our Vast Flow Palace, barely anyone has been able to make any progress in this cultivation art, and even the exceptional prodigies who managed to make some inroads progressed far too slowly and were quickly outstripped by their peers who were cultivating other law powers, so it really is just a waste of time. I also agree. The cultivation art is a small price to pay in exchange for 2 golden immortal stage elders. Everyone else quickly nodded in agreement as well. Feng Hai was still a little reluctant, but seeing as everyone else had already expressed the approval of the proposal, he didn't raise any further objections. In that case, please go fetch the water divination time arts, Elder Knig Fu, Luo Qinghai said to the green-faced elderly man, who promptly departed from the hall. Han Li was sitting on his own while playing with the white crystal ball in his hand when the sound of footsteps rang out from outside, and Luo Qinghai and the green-faced elderly man entered the room. How did your discussion go, Grand Palace Master Luo? Han Li asked. Sorry to keep you waiting, fellow Taoist Liu. This is the water divination time arts, Luo Qinghai said as he flipped a hand over to produce a blue jade slip before placing it onto the tea table beside Han Li. You're a smart man, Grand Palace Master Luo, Han Li said as he also flipped a hand over to produce another white crystal ball, this one containing the elderly man's nascent soul. He tossed both of the crystal balls to Luo Qinghai, then reached out to grab the blue jade slip. Luo Qinghai caught the pair of crystal balls, then injected a burst of blue light into each of them, upon which an elated look appeared on his face. The two nascent souls inside had only been restricted but not harmed, so they could possess new bodies just fine. Meanwhile, Han Li injected his spiritual sense into the jade slip for a moment, then quickly withdrew his spiritual sense as a surprised look appeared on his face. Luo Qinghai had already stowed the pair of crystal balls away, and upon noticing Han Li's expression, he asked, "Is there something wrong?" "No. Now that the exchange is done, I'll be taking my leave," Han Li replied as he stowed the jade slip away, then turned to depart. An urgent look appeared in Luo Qinghai's face upon hearing this, and he hurriedly said, "There's no hurry to leave, fellow Taoist Liu. Why don't you stay at our vast flow palace for a few days so I can show you some hospitality?" "There's no need for that. I don't know anything about fellow Taoist Gongshu or what happened in the infernal Frost Immortal Manor, so there's no need to waste your time on me, Grand Palace Master Luo," Han Li said. Luo Qinghai's expression stiffened slightly upon hearing this, but it then quickly returned to normal as he turned to the green-faced elderly man as he said, "In that case, I won't keep you any longer. Elder Qing Fu, please escort fellow Taoist Liu out of the sect for me." "Yes, Grand Palace Master, please come with me, fellow Taoist Liu," the green-faced elderly man replied, then led Han Li out of the hall before flying away into the distance. Luo Qinghai watched as the two of them departed, and he remained standing at the entrance of the hall for a moment before also departing himself. Close to a day later, a streak of azure light flew out of the ancient Point Mountain range, then descended onto a small hill to reveal Han Li. He turned back to the ancient Point Mountain range, and a faint smile appeared on his face. At the same time, Jin Tong emerged beside him amid a flash of golden light. "It's a good thing you were with me, Jin Tong. Otherwise, that wouldn't have gone so smoothly," Han Li said. Back in the vast flow palace, he had completely concealed his own aura while adopting his giant mountain ape form, while Jin Tong had released her late golden immortal stage aura, thereby resulting in the illusion that Han Li possessed her aura, ultimately intimidating Luo Qinghai into complying to his demands. I can't believe you gave those nascent souls to them instead of feeding them to me," Jin Tong said with a displeased expression. Han Li smiled as he flipped a hand over to summon another pair of golden immortal stage nascent souls, and the displeasure on Jin Tong's face was instantly replaced with elation as he grabbed the pair of nascent souls from him. These two nascent souls had been a part of a Gongshu Ju's collection, of which there were 5 or 6 left. Perhaps he had secured these nascent souls from the infernal Frost Immortal Manor, or perhaps he had sourced them from elsewhere. Han Li pulled out the jade slip that contained the water divination time arts, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Even though he was still yet to completely grasp the illusory dawn, treasured scripture that he had obtained from the Dawnfall sect, it had reminded him of the vast flow palace's water divination time arts. He was going to be leaving the northern glacial immortal region anyway, so he may as well claim all 3 of the immortal region's time attribute cultivation arts, hence his decision to visit the vast flow palace. At first glance, the water divination time arts was different from both the mantra axis scripture and the illusory dawn treasured scripture, in that it was a cultivation art that manifested time law powers using the power of water. However, what was quite surprising to Han Li was that all 3 of them had certain similarities. Could it be that the 3 time attribute cultivation arts of the northern glacial immortal region are somehow connected with one another? Han Li only considered this notion briefly before shaking his head and stowing the jade slip away again. His top priority at the moment was to leave the northern glacial immortal region as soon as possible, so he would just have to study the cultivation art another time. With a sweep of his sleeve, the green jade flying carriage appeared, and he released a burst of azure light to sweep up Jin Tong before flying onto the carriage. Immediately thereafter, the carriage shot forth toward the entrance to the primordial land as a ball of green light. In a certain space, countless kilometers away from the northern glacial immortal region, the sky here was a radiant blue color with giant white clouds drifting lazily through the air, while a series of spirit birds flew through them. Everything here seemed to be particularly bright, as if there weren't any darkness or shadows here. Above the white, immortal clouds was a vast world that consisted of countless giant mountains hovering in the sky, stretching as far as the eyes could see. These mountains all varied in size, with some only tens of thousands of feet tall, while the largest ones stood at a staggering tens of millions of feet in size. Each mountain carried one or multiple majestic buildings, and these buildings were all of different styles, but they shared one similarity, which was that they were all radiating dazzling golden light. The mountains were connected by bridges of rainbow light, presenting a spectacular sight to behold. There was one mountain that was several million feet tall, hovering in mid-air, and it was riddled with radiant golden spirit patterns. Around a dozen smaller mountains were hovering around it, much like stars around a moon. On the summit of the mountain stood a golden palace that was glowing radiantly like everything else here. The palace was around 1,000 feet tall and constructed from some type of unknown golden jade material, and it was extremely opulent and spectacular. Above the entrance of the palace hung a silver plaque that read, "Dawn Void Palace." There were also many buildings littered across the smaller mountains around the giant golden peak, some of which were medicine gardens, while others were pill refinement chambers. The nearest one of the smaller mountains had a large estate on its summit, within which numerous immortals were being kept, and it was looked after by several young servants. Right at this moment, a streak of white light shot forth from afar, then flashed over the estate before hurtling toward the summit of the giant golden mountain. The streak of white light was releasing a burst of tremendous spiritual pressure, and a giant azure light barrier quickly surfaced around the estate to keep the immense spiritual pressure at bay. But some of it was still able to force its way through. All of the immortal beasts in the estate immediately became anxious and restless, while all of the servants' complexions paled significantly as they collapsed to the ground. Only after the spiritual pressure had completely faded did they return unsteadily to their feet, with looks of admiration and longing on their faces.